Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to have a go at making some wands out of foam clay, and this is everything I need to make them. I'm going to make the skull wand first, and for that I'm going to utilise this plastic Halloween skull, and the first step is to sand down all these horrible seam lines, as this will eventually be my wand handle. It's sometimes quicker to use a blade, but you have to be careful when doing this. Right, I have my starting point. I'm going to attach the armature wire into the back of the skull, and to do that I need to drill a hole. Then I use a bigger drill to widen the hole further, and this marks the diameter of the wire. By inserting the wire rather than gluing it on top, it increases the strength. Next I straighten the wire out a little bit and make sure the skull sits comfortably in my hand. Then I take the wire to the skull. This is merely to hold it in place and to complete the next step, and that's building up layers of foil around the base in a conical shape. This will help bridge the size difference between the skull and the wand. And once again add another layer of tape to hold it in place, especially around the skull area, as that needs to be flat. I keep building up the layers on the base until I'm happy with it, and once that's done I can wrap some foil around the wand and fatten that up a little bit. At the end of the day, the more surface area I have, the more places the foam clay has to stick to. So squash all that down tight and make it as straight as I can. I picked up some foam clay from a children's play set, as this is much cheaper than buying the stuff that comes in those big buckets. Plus, with it being individually wrapped, not much goes to waste. So it's just a matter of wrapping it all the way around the wand. This stuff is quite sticky and will stick to itself easily, including your fingers, which is why it's best to dip them in water before working with this stuff, and that will create a temporary non-stick barrier. When it comes to the skull section, I try and blend it in as neat as possible. There's not much else I can do with this wand at this stage. I have to put it to one side for a couple of days to set, and once it's hardened I'll have a few options. Moving on to wand number 2. This one's going to have a split point, so I just need to create a hook and slot it over the end. This is going to be similar to a branch from a magical tree, and once the ends are fairly even, I just need to hold them together with some foil. I pack it down nice and tight, as I want this one to be fairly thin, and now I can adjust the shape so it sits well in my hand, and a little bit of tape will help hold the foil into place. Now, as with the previous wand, I need to wrap the whole thing in foil, once again keeping it fairly trim and tight. Once I cover the whole thing, it's starting to look like a branch, and the idea is that this has been taken from a magical tree, so it's very organic. So as before, I need to cover the whole thing in foam clay. Since branches are not perfectly smooth, this wand doesn't need to be perfectly smooth either, so any bumps or cracks will be completely forgivable. Realistically, you've got a working time of about 5 minutes. After that, the foam clay will start to struggle to stick to itself. Adding a little water will help moisten it a bit, but not for long. Since this clay oxidizes, it just needs to be left out for a couple of days to start to harden, because during that in-between phase you can't do a lot with it. Right, moving on to wand number 3. This one I'm going to call the Witch's Finger. This is going to end up as a long decrepit finger which belonged to a powerful witch. I just need to empty my box of scraps and see if we can find any bones, and I've settled for these 4. So that's 3 for the finger and 1 in the hand. Now, as with the skull, these plastic pieces need cleaning up, even though only a small part of them will be visible once it's completed. The bones are going to be connected by wire, so they'll need a hole drilling in them. And then with the aid of some gel super glue, they're connected together. I also put a slight bend in them to mimic an actual finger. Then I continue along until all the bones are connected. I've left some wire sticking out at the end. This is how I can extend it further, and this will essentially be more of the witch's hand. So I wrap it up in kitchen foil to fasten it up. Then it's just a matter of breaking out the foam and adding the rotting flesh over the whole thing, and leaving the occasional bone exposed. This is probably the most complicated wand I'll be making today. I've not tried any of these before. I'm completely making them up as I go along. But that's the good thing about doing them in batches like this, as some of them should hopefully work. Right, I'll put that to one side to solidify and I'll start working on the next one. I just need a straight piece of wire and thicken it out with foil. I find that twisting the foil helps to keep it in place. This is a prime example why I like using foam clay from these small packets, because if one of them spoils, you've only lost a packet and not lost a whole tub. And this one has completely solidified. After getting a fresh one out of another packet, I basically roll out 2 snakes of the same length, making sure that they are long enough to cover the whole wand. For this one I wanted to create a twisted effect, so I push both snakes together and close the gap. Then I start at the tip of the wand and start twisting it around, ensuring that I don't leave any gaps in the process. And when it's done, it should look a little bit like a braided rope. At the end I can pin the 2 snakes together to create a point. You can see how quickly and easily this one goes together. Once I start running out of foam, I have to adjust it so the end finishes flat. As this is so I can fit a handle to it. And for the handle, I'm going to cut off a piece of 10mm plastic pipe. And that should slide on just like so. This one's just a little bit short, so I'll replace it with a slightly longer one. I have enough material left over to make a small wand, and I'm going to call this one the compact. So it's just a matter of wrapping it in foil and sticking it into a tube. This one is running the risk of being a bit boring, so I decided to create a bulge in the wand, and this is to create the impression that it used to be part of a larger wand, and it's been prepared so many times there's not much left of the original. I also used a bit of foam clay to create a stopper at the end. I'm not too happy with how this is looking, but there's still a ways to go yet. Rather than let all the leftover foam clay go to waste, I use it all on the finger to make it look even more gnarly. So these are my 5 wands so far. I'm going to give them a light sanding and general clean up, plus add in some additional details. By using this wire brush, I'm scraping in some wood grain, and for the witch's finger I add in the creases for the knuckles, and then I have a few gaps left to fill in. I've chosen Milliput for this because it can be watered down very thin and it has a long working time. As you can see, it's getting into all the cracks, plus it's also useful in adding some extra rotting flesh for the finger. And to open up the cuts on the finger and to make it even gnarlier, I give it a blast with a heat gun, and it's making the foam bubble and become grotesque. And with all that done, it's time to undercoat everything with white paint. And we're going to need 2-3 coats to ensure full coverage. Next I need to decide which wand is going to be which colour. For the compact I chose a black brown, and I've still no real idea what I'm doing with this one. For the wooden ones I'm using liquid brown shoe polish. This not only acts as speed paint, but it also seals everything in as well. Also, if you water it down, it's great for weathering. I'm also using this as a base colour for the witch's finger. I will layer on some other colours at a later stage. For the skull wand I'm using black shoe polish, and I'm going to need a couple of layers of this to get good coverage. I have an idea to make the compact wand stand out a little bit. I'm going to cover it in this 2-tone glitter. Once it dries, it should add a nice supernatural shimmer to it. For the handle, I found this blue cord. I'm going to attach this by adding some super glue to the handle and slowly wrapping it around. This is slow and tedious work, but it does add another dimension to your wands. And when it comes to the end, I cut the cord at an angle and it gives it a perfectly flat finish. And for the twisting wand, I give it a dry whip of the cream colour. And for this one, I chose to wrap the handle in a dark brown cord. When it came to the double pronged wand, I used a maroon coloured cord, because this way they all had their own identity. The only problem with this method is you will end up with super glue all over your fingers. To top this off, I added some metallic copper to the tips, and that just gives it a nice little sheen at the magic end. All I needed to do for the skull wand was to dry with some white over the features, just so you can see the highlights, and that's it. For the witch's finger, I built up several different layers of colour. I start off by dry brushing on some white, then added on some dark green, light green, yellow, browns and black. And this one should look like it's been decayed and is rotten, but with it being very powerful, the user had no choice but to use it. Right, they're all done now, so let's take a look at them one at a time. First up is the Decaying Witch's Finger, and that's followed up by the Quirky Little Compact. Next up we have the Twin Pronged Wand, followed by the Twisted Spiral, and lastly we have the Black Skull. Well, I found these quite fun to make. Which one do you find the most creative? Let me know down below. Or if you have some ideas of your own, also let me know, and I might make a part 2. Either way, you should pick yourself up some foam clay and have a go at making your own wand. Thank you for watching. Don't forget, if I can do it, so can you.